And we're live. I am here once again. This has been a long time in the pipeline. I think it was a matter of coordinating schedules, but I am here again with DM Blackwall. We are going to continue the work that we started last stream, which was that a month ago at this point?
About 3 weeks. Yeah.
Okay. So three weeks ago on a new species for Dropship.
Yeah.
But I have some questions first before we continue. So they are an aquatics. First of all, catch me up. Where are we? Where do we leave off? I know we have like the basics minion level, so minion quote unquote sort of level guys.
So Nate and I have been working on this stuff now for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Probably about a month and a half we've been working on these. So there's about ignoring humans, because that'll actually be really fast to do. Because we already have some sample soldiers for another game in a close enough genre, I should say, that's fast. But for the alien species and thinking about how they should behave and stuff, it's a little more involved. But I think if you count 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, call it 9 times. I'm working on about 63 to 80 different stat blocks for these aliens. That's ignoring the humans. That's also ignoring like beasts and monsters, like either unintelligent opponents, like automatons or giant snails or whatever.
Sure.
Unintelligent ones, but also could include intelligent ones that are significantly different than a humanoid, so much so that they should be categorized as a monster. And I'll give you an example. Which would be the xenomorphs from the Alien franchise.
Oh, sure, okay.
Those even if they were intelligent, even if they thought in some way like humans, like intelligence level, they would still be categorized as a monster.
Yes, that makes sense to me.
Whereas the Predators from the Predator franchise, that would probably still be a person, if that helps.
It does.
They look not pleasant, but they are using technology like we would use. They have at least a fairly understandable mindset, even if it's not one that's normal for humans anymore.
Right.
It's not that they're not truly alien in that way.
Right. We can see the emergent society. They organize themselves similarly to the way humans have before in our distant past, but also aliens, capital A, organize themselves like insects.
Right.
So we can we can identify behaviors that we're familiar with regard to insects, but they're still incredibly alien, lowercase to us, as
exactly.
We can't really understand their drives from a first person perspective. That makes sense.
Exactly. So that's kind of how we're trying to differentiate those. And then essentially the beasts, the main difference between those and monsters in this game are that beasts would be naturally occurring creatures, or things. How did one of our players say it when he was playing Horde Wars when he commented on it? It's the same idea. I believe he called beasts God's creatures, which is correct. And then the monsters are, the implication is, are not.
Yes.
So something like a zombie would be a monster.
Yes.
But by the same token, so would a robot, because it is not a natural creature,
right?
And it's not a person. That would make it a monster.
Yeah, robots look. I mean, well, a humanoid robot looks humanoid, but they are entirely foreign to any reasonable understanding we could glean from whatever subroutines and programming they run off of.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, if that helps to like think about the terminology. So a couple of the stat blocks that we're working with in this mostly alien character section do include some monsters, because like for the hierarchy, their leaders, the species that leads that group, are so physiologically different as to be monsters, whereas the rest of the hierarchy is close enough to humans to be considered characters like we would be. And there you're dealing with basically incorporeal possessing entities, space demons, more or less.
Okay. Hey, Dean, what's up? Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, I'm going live today.
Hi. Yeah. But that's kind of the framework that we're working from.
Okay, so with these alien species, aliens, what the proper term? I think you're using alien. So with these aliens,
that's not the proper term we're using. It is we are using it the way that humans use it. We're mostly calling them. We're either calling them characters or monsters as the subtype.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
We are using the term aliens like in terms of the game world or a way to describe non-humans as a subset of characters.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But the alien is not the proper like game rules term.
So what we are creating is their characters. Now, are there any monsters that fall under the?
There are.
Oh, that's probably what he was getting to. I should shut up and just let him get there.
And so if I click, let me see, these are. Share a screen over here. So the Balmori themselves, right? The surface Balmori, the ones near the surface. These guys are basically squid men, in the sense that, or octopus men, in the sense that they are humanoid in shape, other than they've got like a head with some tentacles.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not our original design. But the reason we went with this design is because those are available heads and available figures that you can purchase from multiple manufacturers, or you could manufacture yourself pretty easily with some green stuff and moderate skill. So it's not, so those aren't unavailable. Whereas the thing that we wanted to do originally, which we are keeping for the Deep Balmori, is significantly harder to acquire in large quantities.
Are they chitinous shrimp men?
Yeah. And so
awesome.
we want as much as possible players to be able to acquire from multiple sources figures, because we aren't, generally speaking, selling figures. Now, at the moment, we are selling some on our website, but those aren't ones we made. Some are ones that we've painted or modified in various ways, and some are just pre-painted miniatures we bought in bulk and are selling almost at cost. And we're basically doing that because we want other people to be able to play games like Horde Wars or games like Dropship, and also because I think it can be, for the right player, very helpful for them to understand what is going on, and for the right player, very helpful to have something tactile to kind of lock onto. That isn't true for everyone. You can certainly have entire play groups where it's not important, but I know I would say something like about a fifth of all of the people I game with or have gamed with respond better if there are visuals that they can see and interact with.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So here's the question that I have, and I know that you've seen some of the videos on my channel, and I think that you know that I come from a particular immersion preference style of play.
Yes.
Or character immersion preference style, say I should phrase it. So I have, and I know that, don't let me say that I know. It seems like your games they're geared toward a different style of play, right? I would assume, though, I'm solidly aware that I can role play the living crap out of a Horde Wars game. And so I expect to be able to role play the living crap out of a Dropship game. But there's a little bit of curiosity I have with regard to exploration of this particular species, especially with regard to the deeper dwelling chitinous guys, because there could be, because this is me world building now, I guess. So, but there could be a social strata among these creatures where they are physically different from one another. Larger right claws, larger left claws. They mean different things within the society. And then I started to think about, well, I know there's going to be cybernetics in the game. Maybe there are some sort of like biological enhancements that behave like cybernetics, but aren't necessarily like. So I just I've been thinking about this quite a bit since our first stream when we started to draft the species, the characters that we would ever and I just had those questions. Like, is that something that we'll get into? Is that something you've already done? Is that because I know that we discussed it and you presented me with enough lore to really know what I wanted to select to begin building.
Yeah. So we've done a number of drafts of this. Like I said, we've been working on this game for over half a decade. We did take a break while we were working on Horde Wars from development, but in total, we've probably put in 3 years of actual active development time.
That's awesome.
And so this has gone through multiple iterations. Our first draft was playable, but significantly worse. And that's just because you have to, if you're going to design games, you have to think about some things that aren't necessary as a game master. One, you have to think about, will this fit on the page repeatedly and usefully, like in a way that someone else can read it, not just some shorthand for me?
Sure.
Is this written clearly for another person? Are there assumptions that I'm making, essentially rules that aren't written down anywhere? Because that's almost always the case for a game master. And even if they're playing a game rules as written, they will often add something, even just subconsciously, or as a way to address something a game system doesn't really cover.
Sure.
There will be some kind of rule that they just ad hoc. For example, in D&D, whether or not if you were to sleep with a prostitute or your wife, there is no answer for does anyone become pregnant? It's not a question that the game system answers.
Right.
And so if you want to play a realistic role-playing game and you have a character who's wandering around from city to city and is not faithful to his spouse, even if he has one, you go, okay, well, what are possible consequences? And how do we adjudicate that?
Right.
One of which is, of course, pregnancy. Another of which is some kind of disease, or other social things, depending on who exactly this is with. And so that's most game masters will have some way that they'll address that, and it's often a consistent way. But that's not a rule the game actually presents. But if you're writing a new game, you might have rules like that really should be written down because perhaps they're important to the game. Like, for example, how do we roll for treasure? Not just, is there a treasure list?
Right.
That you actually have to explain. And so we try to, as much as possible, in our games to have everything on the page, on the relevant page for you, so that you don't have to like flip around and look things up, other than like certain game terms. For example, the word protection is consistent in meaning throughout the book, so we're not going to repeat it for you on every page where the word exists, because that would be ridiculous. But like if you're looking up in Horde Wars the spell, a creature with the spell Fireball, it will tell you what does that spell do right there. Same idea for Dropship, where we want to, other than some common game terminology, explain exactly what you need to run the thing right where it is. So let's look at a little bit of updating. So the Balmori, I've got their swim speed increased from when we looked at it previously.
Oh, okay.
One of the
from 6, I think, right? Was it 6 in the water?
Yeah. One of the reasons for this is after some playtesting recently, we did a couple of rules updates. One of which was the career called the Vanguard previously could basically just move faster when he was wearing power armor, which is cool. But we removed that ability and instead made an item that would let you move faster, just better. So he could still get an equivalent move speed, but it wasn't part of his career, and we gave him a different ability instead. And at the same time, we updated things like flippers, a climbing kit, jetpacks, Sargosso engine, and various other things that basically mess with how your character can move, to be a little bit more powerful than they were previously. And what that means in turn is if we want the Balmori to be able to compete without a boost, we want to up their base number. So a Balmori is as fast as a human with a Sargosso engine.
Okay, that's cool. It also makes sense that they'd be swifter underwater and slower on land.
Yeah. And so that's a thing. Another is I found, I think, a better implant. So the one we had before was something that I think was less useful for the Balmori specifically, but this subdermal transceiver I think is very good. So they've got basically a built-in communications device or radio inside of their body. And so you can't, you could jam them, but you can't take away functionally their ability to try to contact their superiors. So if you foolishly took a group of Balmori guards prisoner, they'll
tell their superiors exactly where you are.
Yeah.
They know everything about you now, at least locational.
Yeah. Yep.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
And then down here, so the Balmori breacher will be pretty similar. Made sure to give him a couple of concussion grenades, though. Partly because a concussive force would be quite effective underwater in real life. So you can see why they would use them. And also, their armor gives them protection from it. So this is something that they'll be damaged by less, but they may be able to mess up their opponent pretty well with it. Just like the baseline dude has the cryo grenade to like lock you in place and slow you down.
No, the concussion grenade is much better. I like that. That's how torpedoes operate. They displace water, and then they essentially, break the submarine around the displaced water as it rushes to fill.
Yeah, so the Preacher, first man in, having grenades of that sort makes a lot of sense, I think. And then we've got this sniper ready to go. And he is pretty mean. Blow through, I think, is combined with controlled breathing, can make for a devastating couple attacks, especially against somebody who's hurt one of their allies, so they get that bonus dive damage.
I'm flipped out that you know where all these changes are without any notation whatsoever. Continue. Just putting that out there.
Yeah. But can you read those? I mean, you don't have to read them out loud, but I want to make sure that you know what they do.
This is the traits: amphibious, avenger, and unyielding.
No, on the right, control breathing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Control breathing. Apologies. Maneuvers, control breathing. Until the end of your next turn, you gain double the normal circumstance bonus on melee and ranged weapon attacks. Let me reread that. Until the end of your next turn, you gain double the normal circumstance bonus on melee and ranged weapon attacks. Okay. What then is a circumstance bonus? I will need a refresher.
Oh, sure. So a circumstance bonus would be, for example, if you've ambushed an opponent or you've gotten elevation on them as a ranged attacker, or you've knocked them down in melee, and this kind of thing.
Gotcha. So this doesn't give you that bonus, but if you have that bonus, it's not doubled.
Correct. And so for a dedicated sniper, this is very good because, of course, you want to ambush the enemy or catch them in the crossfire or both.
Certainly.
And then think about that combined with the blow through action.
Blow through. Make two ranged weapon attacks. Apply each attack against the initial target and any target directly behind him. That seems good. That seems good in conjunction with the control breathing. So these two attacks they will both receive the benefit of the circumstance bonus?
Right.
Okay. That's really obnoxious.
Right. So
in a good way. That's not a criticism.
Yeah. So for example, let's pretend you're a terrible sniper and you have only a +2 to hit. Great. But you do have a circumstance bonus, and you use control breathing. You now have a +6. Somebody in light armor has a defensive 8, which means the only way you could miss them is if they were in cover or you rolled a 1.
That's a pretty good. That's a pretty good ability or maneuver.
Yeah,
I like that.
and then the blow through thing, if you didn't catch it, you could do 2 attacks at one dude, and then those 2 attacks would apply to the person behind him.
Behind
or
him,
the
yeah.
object behind him. But you
Now,
could
if
also
you only
split that
roll,
up.
I'm sorry.
You could also split it up and make 1 attack at one guy, 1 attack at another guy, and blow through on both.
Okay, and because this is worded to say you apply the attack against the initial target and the one directly behind them, you don't have to roll for the second target. It happens.
Correct.
Okay,
It's the same one.
that's very powerful.
Yeah.
Or I should say, it sounds very powerful.
It can be. It can be very powerful. What makes it especially powerful is if you have an assassin weapon, which this guy does not, which gives you a bonus die in the first round of combat, or if your extra damaging trait kicks in, which in this guy's case is Avenger. So he's waiting for you to hurt one of his buddies, and then he is just going to murder you. Because then he'll be attacking you for what would be 4d12 damage. 2d12 then 2d12. That it's unlikely your armor will protect you from because he's doing cold damage.
That's quite a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And your typical character.
It looks really good.
Yeah, I think he'll work well. And we want him to be able to be effective at inserting behind the enemy, especially in aquatic terrain. So he's got very good stealth.
Oh, yeah, okay.
For his
2 + 4 + 2. All right.
Yeah, yeah. And then up here is the next pair of Balmori that Nate and I were working on, just so you can see these guys. So you got a Corpsman and a Royal Guard. The Corpsman, you'll see down here, Field Medic down is the unique stuff for him.
Okay, Field Medic. Whenever you use painkillers, they restore 10 hit points. Oh, more than normal.
Yes.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Maneuvers. Does that say Noi or New? How do you want me to say it?
New.
New meds. Once per day per tier. An adjacent creature of your choice is cured of... adjacent to me? Or adjacent to him, I guess?
Yeah, because you're playing him if you're reading this.
Right. An adjacent creature of your choice is cured of blindness, disease, paralysis, and a single level of affliction. So it takes care of all of that.
Yeah.
Wrestler, immediately attempt to grapple an adjacent target. Actions. Are these all unique as well?
The stim pack and this one's alive are. The phase pistol is not unique, but is how he's going to try and shoot you.
Stim pack. I can read the phase pistol. Let me do that. I don't want to just skip it. Phase pistol is ranged energy attack. Make 2 attacks against targets within short range for 2d10 cold damage. If you score a critical hit, that attack ignores absorption and displacement. Displacement is a type of shielding?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just damage typing. Gotcha. Stim pack. Once per day per tier is healing. An adjacent creature of your choice regains half of his maximum hit points. Let me start over. An adjacent creature of your choice regains half of his maximum hit points and is cured of affliction, blindness, disease, and paralysis. Now, the affliction, it's just all of it.
Yes, all of it.
Okay, that's very strong. And this one's alive, is healing once per day. You restore an adjacent character to life who died within the last hour. The corpse must be mostly intact.
Oh, and you'll notice that's character, not creature.
Oh, yes.
It's a narrower
character.
Yeah.
Okay. So you restore an adjacent character to life who died within the last hour. The corpse must be mostly intact. The restored character is at 1 hit point and cannot be brought back from the dead again until he gains a new character level. I like that. I like placing a restriction on like a resurrection ability.
Thank you. But this is also, I mean, this is something that happens. This happened in World War II. This happened in Vietnam. This happened in Korea, where you'd have multiple soldiers getting shot, and most of whom were dead. And then you'd have one or two potentially in a group of maybe 20 who got shot, who actually are still alive, but everyone thinks they're dead. They actually like would get loaded up with the other casualties or put in like a burn pile, and then someone notices they're still breathing. And some of those, that happened to some guys. I think at least one dude more than once in Vietnam.
Crazy.
Where he was messed up so bad they just thought he was dead. And then they would go, oh, he is alive. Oops. So that's why you have to be mostly intact, in the sense that, you know, your internal organs have to still be inside mostly.
Yes.
And yes, that does leave it to the table to determine, or to the game master. Actually, it would not be the table deciding; it would be the game master deciding: is this corpse intact enough?
Yes. Mostly intact. There's a lot of wiggle room there. It
is. But one of the ways you can kind of tell is we have some permanent injuries that you can get in this game. Unlike Horde Wars, which is more fantasy oriented, this one you can get permanent damage to a limb, to your torso, to your head, with different effects, and you can also potentially get them treated. But it usually means that your character's out of commission for months to get one of those injuries treated. And it may involve, you know, cutting off your damaged arm and replacing it with cybernetics. It may involve actual treatment of the problem, which is more expensive and takes longer. Anyway, so this is their corpsman. This is their support guy, kind of. And then the Royal Guard, just so that you can get a sense of his job.
I really like the corpsman. That is, I think, my favorite one so far. May maintain that position throughout. We'll see. I just really like the corpsman. Okay, Balmori Royal Guard. Let's see what we have.
His defense is quite high.
Oh, defense. Oh, yeah, that is quite high.
And
I guess
then
that makes sense. Royal Guard, you would want them to be.
And then you'll want to pay attention around Assault Marine on down.
Assault Marine, which is absorption. The second attack that would damage you each round is absorbed by your power armor instead.
Yep.
So the first one, I guess, is mitigated by some sort of shielding or high defense.
No, it's not. It could be if you had that shielding. He doesn't have that shielding.
Okay. So
he's actually set up if he were to get shot a second time.
Got you. So if he gets tagged once, that will go through.
Yeah.
You know, barring any rolling and whatnot. And then it's the second one that is just completely nullified.
Yes. Which means
very interesting.
If you try to crack him open like you might normally, say an opening shot to break down a shield or whatever, he's actually his armor and abilities are designed to punish you for that attempt. Because usually what you would do is a weak attempt to just like knock out the shield, and then an attempt to kill him.
I see. So it's going to ignore your biggest attack, ostensibly.
Yeah, unless the character is aware of how this guy functions.
Very cool. Are the Royal Guard Squidmen, or are they?
Yes. And then we jump to the Deep Belmore after this.
Okay. So Flesh Wound.
Flesh Wound is the next.
I didn't mean to talk over you. I apologize.
No, you're good.
Okay. Flesh Wound healing. If you have not been damaged within the last minute, you regain your full maximum hit points. That seems good. That seems great. That's very interesting. Is this do you play many, like, do you play Call of Duty or any military shooters, Halo, anything like that? Because it seems like, you know, if you're out of combat for a couple of seconds, your health and shields regenerate.
I have.
Depending on the game. But That's what that feels like to me.
Yeah. And
very cool.
It's also how regeneration works in Horde Wars. The trolls and stuff will regenerate every round fully unless you deal the right type of damage to them, and then you've got a minute to try and take them out. Whereas the orcs have something very, very similar to this, which is slower regen. It's essentially you have to wait a minute before it really kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, yeah, full recovery. So between that, the assault marine and the flesh wound, the assault marine, and the high defense, they have a very good ability to stay on the battlefield.
Yeah, they're very, very sticky, it seems. So maneuvers.
Yep.
Clobber. When you make a melee weapon attack, you may use clobber to deal an additional die of damage. Cool. So just walking up to you in power armor and clocking you like a truck.
Even more so. Wait till you read Crushing Blow.
Okay, sure. We'll get there. Actions: sledgehammer, melee weapon. Make 2 attacks. Make 2 attacks for 2d12 blunt damage. If you score a critical hit, roll an extra damage die, and that attack ignores protection and damage reduction. Okay. Crushing Blow, once per day per tier. Make 2 melee weapon attacks that deal 3 extra dice of damage.
Yeah.
So you don't ever want to engage this guy in melee.
No, you do not. Not unless you've got like some energy shields or something to protect yourself.
Oh, and he's ranged too. He has a phase rifle.
Oh yeah.
And then concussion grenades. This guy seems particularly beefy.
Yeah, I mean, he wants to get into melee with you, but he's not useless at ranged.
Right. He's not.
And in many ways, we'll punish you for getting into melee. And you'll see there's this optional rule for Stoneblood dwarves. It's because we took the formatting. There aren't dwarves.
Right.
As much fun as Deep Rock Galactic, the space game, would be, that is not what we're working on. This is just a placeholder to remind us that there is supposed to be a sidebar under here talking about the Royal Guard.
Right. Okay.
And then here is where we're kind of at, where we have to think. We're got to think about the Deep Balmori and their.
Oh, and these are all monsters.
Correct.
At least these 2 are.
Correct. The
very
Deep
interesting.
Balmori, because of their nature, would be categorized as monsters.
I like this. So the corpsmen can't just quote unquote find a surviving Deep Balmori governor.
Correct.
Excellent.
Correct. He can still heal them because that's all creature based.
Right. But he
cannot bring one back.
Makes sense. Right. Where should we start? The governor or the duke, or do you want to explain a bit first, or
one or both? But what I should do first of all for formatting is grab this information and stick it at the top because we'll probably want the space.
Okay.
And then just delete the duplications and then merge this stuff. Or wait, actually, I can delete a few of these lines. There. Oh, that'll probably be easier for us to play around with. So the idea here, each of the species is going to have a person who is useful at command and control at the starship scale. Not each species, each faction is going to have at least one. I'm going to quick jump to an example of one that's done so you can see.
Sure.
The Inlari science officer is an example. So if you look at his ionize, polarize hull, and sensor echoes abilities.
Okay, ionize. I'm sorry. I don't mean
the kind of thing I mean.
I really need to work on that. I'm very eager. I'm very excited. I just start talking. I need to shut up and let you finish. I'm sorry. So maneuver. Ionize is a maneuver. When you make a starship weapon attack, you may use ionize to have that attack ignore absorption and displacement.
Right. So he can get past shields.
Right. Then on top of that, polarized hull, which is a starship action, once per day per tier. Your starship gains protection from a damage type of your choice for the next minute. And then sensor echoes, which is a displacement action and a starship action once per day. Until the end of your next turn, attacks that would hit your starship miss instead.
Yes.
So this is someone who, this is essentially a pilot who is able to just, like an ace pilot, dodge.
No, he's not dodging. Sensor echoes. He's basically jamming the enemy sensors.
Oh. I should probably pay more attention to the names than the
Yeah, there is an ace pilot guy who can like dodge attacks.
Okay, but this is different. Got you.
Yeah.
This guy, he's making it so you can no longer be targeted by their sensors for jamming them or what have you.
Yeah. Now the thing is, missiles still do half damage on a miss.
Missiles still do half damage. Okay.
Yep. And if someone else had ionize, what would that do?
Can you let me see here? What does? Oh, okay. Because sensor echoes is a displacement, you just ignore it.
Yeah.
Okay. I had to match up the keywords. So if they are affected by sensor echoes, but then they activate ionize, they ignore that and can shoot normal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so you have some kind of give and take, some capacity to get past, their cool ability.
Yeah,
and
well,
so
it's also neat. It's reactive in a moment of combat. It's. I imagine combat will unfold in a very intense way. I think that this gives opportunity for role play, even for being able to communicate with your whoever's on the bridge or whatever character. Assuming that player characters can also gain these actions, I imagine they can.
Oh yes, very much so.
Because I think I recall you saying that all the actions that are pulled down on these different alien species are usually also up at the character level too. So it's just everyone shares everything.
For the character ones, there are going to be some monstrous ones or variants. For example, we have a agent career where you can basically pass as another character. Again, the character keyword mattering. So you can physically appear to be another character, including of another species. Now, this gives you no capacity to speak their language, so you're going to have that fixed in some way. But you can. It makes you look right. Well, the Inlari have a variant where they aren't being changed physically, but they have basically a mental illusion. So it looks like they've changed shape, but really they haven't. That's basically just a projection. And so theirs is, you would defeat their illusion in a different way than you would the guy who has physically, his form has altered. Kind of like if you ever watch Star Trek, they'll sometimes do like cosmetic surgery on their crew before they send them down to an alien.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of like that idea for the agent as a built-in thing for that career. Limited use, but I think it can be really powerful. And we want occasionally an enemy to be on your ship and be able to infiltrate your crew. And so the Inlari variant, you'd have to find and fix in a different way than the guy who's physiologically changed.
Right. Okay. Very cool.
So anyway, but the starship scale thing is relevant because the Balmori governor or viceroy, he is going to be that guy for Balmori. Because essentially we want to, when you look at the starship stat blocks, we want you to be able to use the stat block as written, which has kind of a basic crew statistics and modifiers and stuff, so that you don't have to jump back and forth to like what does the crewman say, what does the ship say, that it's all there. But we also want you to be able to have a veteran crew, which mostly would mean better skill modifiers and maybe an extra die of damage. But then, and that'll be incorporated right on those pages in the starship section. But then if you want to go a step further, we want each species to have at least one of the major careers oriented around controlling ships that you could go, no, this fleet not only has an elite crew, they've got specialists. And they have enough of them that they're, for example, using the science officer abilities that you saw there for the Inlari to get past your shields. So it's not that the Inlari in general in their ships will do that, but if you run into one of their actually elite vessels, that's a possibility.
Gotcha.
And so for the Balmori, because of their stratified society, their very centralized kind of command and control, we thought that the cool thing would be for them at that scale would be a bridge officer, someone who specializes at commanding starships.
Okay.
And so that would include at a minimum a +3 to language, +3 to starships.
Oh, these guys are medium-sized with thermal imaging perception.
Currently, I think that's just a copy and paste.
Oh, okay.
Medium part. The thermal imaging is different. Yes, because they're deeper in the sea. I think these will actually be large.
Even bigger.
Yeah, I think they should be. In part because there are actually some relevant figures you could use. And they are either what would be for 28 millimeter considered large size category, or they're right on the edge where they put them on a 28 millimeter base, but they actually like fill out past the base.
Yep, I know exactly what you mean.
And so I think large-ish would be fine. I wouldn't like have a fit if someone made them medium.
Gotcha.
It's fine. Anyway, though, these guys are also good at influence. And then we need to pick one more skill. Relevant skills might include like stealth, for running dark. Might include like investigate for scanning for enemy ships or trying to find hidden stuff. Might include science for picking up enemy communications. But it might include something like legal, or might include combat. Maybe they're also personally well trained at hand-to-hand fighting, or that sort of thing. Do you have any suggestion as to what the additional component of what is essentially what a human would call perhaps a Balmori, like rear admiral? What other thing should he be good at?
I like the idea of them having a greater battlefield awareness, like being able to scan for ships. But are we building them from the top down? Do they have any actions at all?
None of this is there. All of these are placeholders for their civilization's weapons.
Gotcha. So, because I was going to say, if I can get any information based on actions or maneuvers.
No, I got nothing there currently. These are some of the ones that I've got to work on. Thus, here we are. So offhand, we can always jump ahead. So we can also look at what actions and maneuvers their career would give them. So one of those would be here. And I'll highlight the ones that are here, because these are basically, if we want to arm these dudes with existing weapons, this is where to
That's
get
what I can choose from.
Yeah, because it's written differently than just a list. This is written as though you're taking the action. But on my command, they would also have redeploy. And this would be Let me see how I did these previously. Edit, find and replace. Ah, that's an error. Let me highlight that orange. I'm going to fix that in a sec. All right, so anyone else? Starship. Bracket. Here we go. Grab this. And go up here. There. So redeploy would be true. And then I got to figure out Control F, smuggler. I got to find, there we go, void courier. It's good that we're doing this because I found an actual error. And now I just need to figure out how that error, or what's supposed to be there, because essentially the smuggler should say, where is he? There it is. Do we have in this document silent? No, we don't. Void warrior. Cool. So basically, this ability should not exist. And instead, what should exist is that ability. Because Nate and I actually reworked this career in the last week or so. This is this version is just more generally applicable. And I just happened to catch that going through. Basically, running dark just means your ship is hiding, but not with cover. It's hiding because space is big and they are like controlling their heat signature and stuff.
Right.
And, avoiding doing stuff to get detected. And essentially, if you are a very, very good smuggler, you are able to actually change course at sublight speeds without revealing your position, which basically everyone else, as soon as you have an engine flare, they're going to spot you if they're in range.
I really like the idea of these guys. Did they get? Oh, okay.
So that was what I was fixing.
Gotcha. I think that, leaning into that for this particular monster, I like the way that feels. I like that they are deep Balmori, and I like how when they go into space, they also seem to behave in a similar fashion. Space is vast and dark, just like the depths of the ocean. I like that they use thermal vision to see because of how lightless it is. So I think that keeping that as an advantage for this particular monster it's thematic. I like the way it feels. I don't know if that's the direction that you want to go in with it, but I think like just being able to keep themselves silent and their ships silent, but also have full knowledge and command of the battlefield, or fuller knowledge of the battlefield with regard to scanning opposing ships. I think that that's a really neat. I think it's neat in that it's consistent with keeping, at least in how I'm envisioning this particular monster.
Well, what do you think of these abilities here? So this is what I've got so far for command and control elements for him on his spaceship.
Okay, sure. Maneuvers through actions, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so maneuvers on my command. An ally of your choice within communication range may immediately make a starship weapon attack. That attack deals an extra die of damage. Actions. And that I think that makes sense for a Deep Balmori, because that's what they do, right? They're the rulers of their particular world, their particular species, yeah. And so it makes sense for them to point and tell someone to do something. So that feels good. Broadside. It's a starship action once per day per tier. Make a starship weapon attack with each of your starship's weapons. These attacks deal an extra die of damage. These starship weapons may still be used normally. That's insane. And then redeploy, which is a starship action, once per day per turn. Up to 4 allied starships within communication range may each move up to their speed. So they feel very much like they're a commander. They're pointing and people are doing the things that they're telling them to do.
Yeah.
Okay. That as a package feels very good.
And then the question is, what else do we give this dude? Either racially, like does he have physical weapons that are relevant enough to be listed? Like if it's the equivalent of a human fist, there is no point to listing it. We should just give him a weapon. Because he would not carry his fists into battle in that situation.
Right.
But also, does he have additional training? Because this, essentially what we've got so far, missing a skill, missing some of the upper stuff, is basically how he can impact the battlefield at the starship scale. We could lean on that and make him even better at the starship scale. For example, we could give him the, I can show you one, last stand maneuver.
Last stand, extra action once per day. Your starship immediately regains 20 hit points. In addition, you may take an additional starship action on each of your turns for the next 1d4 rounds. This allows you to exceed the maximum number of actions for that starship. So it's their starship only. Well, that's okay, though. That's okay, because they're going to have, like, a crew. And it feels like they're, pushing their crew beyond a breaking point almost. Or maybe not beyond, but, I don't envision them as the encouraging sort. They're more the, demanding, you get this done now sort.
Yeah, well, I mean, if this guy's tier 2 and his crew was, say, in the process of evacuating a ship that had been disabled and was about to explode, he could use Last Stand to do a final round or two of firing off his guns and use Broadside as his action, as 2 actions, because he'd immediately get an action, or if he timed it right, he'd gain the 20 hit points, the starship would. It would turn on, it would be back in the battle for a sec, and then he'd have his turn and have an extra action, and he could go broadside.
Oh, that's pretty great.
Does that win the battle? Probably not. I mean, unless there's just one enemy. But it might. And it would certainly be a surprise if you had, like, knocked out the enemy command ship and it had been in the counting down to explode for a few seconds, and then suddenly
back back to life and starts shooting with everything.
Yeah. So we could do that. We want to make him even more dangerous.
That feels very dangerous to me.
And then what's he armed with? Is he carrying guns? Is he carrying a melee weapon of some sort?
I mean, I would think a sidearm, like a phase pistol. But
sure.
I don't know. Does melee make more sense?
Well, it's a question of space and what would be cool.
Phase pistol, that's what I'm on with. I like the phase pistol.
It's like a phase pistol's right there, adjusted for his level. It also means if he's going to be carrying that, we probably want to give him combat so he doesn't suck at it.
Okay, sure, yeah. That makes sense.
And then if we get rid of these guys, or at least move them to here, maybe. Let me see. We probably don't need phase pistol again. We might want one of these others. Does he have anything else? So, for example, we could give him Oh, let me find it a sec. I have kind of a cool trait, I think. Unless it's still in here. Control F. Cave. Something. There it is. Where is this? Oh, it's right here. Cool. We could give him this. It's a pretty minor trait. But what do you think of that?
Cave diver. You ignore hindering terrain in water and underground. Yeah.
I think it makes sense if these are deep sea creatures.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense.
And then do you think this guy should have a better swim speed than the surface Balmori? Because right now,
That's a good question.
6 and 8.
6 and 8.
And the draft is 6 and 10, but that doesn't have to be true. They could be slower, they could be faster.
If he's 6 and 10, like, I mean, yeah, you know what? Let's do. Well, my thought process is this: if he is 6 and 10, then it might make a little bit more sense for him to have a melee weapon, but that's underwater. That's a water movement speed, and the expectation while they are on a ship is likely that they're not also going to then be underwater.
Correct.
So let's stick to 10 underwater, and it will just be just a surprising maneuverability while they're underwater.
Yeah.
But if there's supposed to be a starship powerhouse, then I think the gun makes the most sense while they're on a starship. And,
And do we want to give him a physical weapon or leave it like this and leave room at the bottom for a sidebar, potentially talking a little bit about the social role of this particular stat?
Oh, I like the sidebar, but I would. So,
okay. So that being the case, we want to go like this and unmerge this side. So I'm basically using tables to build these right now.
Yeah.
Which isn't optimal in every way, but it can work pretty well. And if you've ever, for those of you who are interested in making books yourselves, Affinity 2 is a great program. I encourage you to pick it up. However, it is not good currently at making tables.
I was not aware that it was not good at tables.
It can make them, but it is not really what it is specialized to do.
Gotcha.
And so you want to make appropriate decisions. And so in our case, I think even if we decide to do layout entirely in Affinity, tables would be the exception. We would make tables in a separate file and upload the table as an image to mess around with in Affinity, probably, or as a PDF, which is in many ways functionally an image, just so that we don't have some of those issues. All right, so somewhere around there is about the amount of space we've got for a table. It's totally fine. This dude. So I don't think that the Commander Balmori dude probably has the most armor, but he is going to be like a crustacean. So maybe +2. Does that sound reasonable as a natural armor bonus? In a D12 system?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So essentially what I'm saying is normally if you're wearing light armor in our game, you'd have an 8, maybe a 9 defense if you're a specialist. I'm thinking this guy does wear light armor, but also has a natural shell, which would push him up to a 10.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Whereas if you had one in power armor, which would give you a 12 defense, a Balmori in power armor would be up to 14.
That's awesome. I mean, I think he clearly doesn't have power armor, but I also think that he is probably, reinforcing his natural chitin.
Yeah. And then this dude, I think probably we put him at 60 hit points based on their current progression. Now, the Deep Belmori Duke, here's where we get to some more interesting territory. For one, do we want to give this guy, let's see, because this dude's probably minimum hit points would be 90, and I think personally I'd put him at 120, actually. I don't think one of their dukes dies to, say, a single grenade, even if you crit.
No, these guys have to be large and scary, I think.
Yeah. But career-wise, or ability-wise, I'm not sure what would be fun. There's a lot of interesting options. I do think this one should have some melee capabilities. I think that would make a lot of sense. They'd be physically a lot stronger than a human, for example. At least most humans. And certainly would be stronger in the water.
Yes.
And so maybe well, I guess the first question, which we haven't really answered the other one either, is do these guys have some kind of natural weapon that the surface Balmori, the Squidmen, do not?
Yes.
And
definitely beyond the shadow of a doubt.
Okay, so if so, it's probably a claw of some kind.
Yes.
And let's see. Crushing would be funny. It's probably piercing or blunt. I don't think it's slashing.
I would think more blunt, but I guess, I mean, depending on how it forms, you could maybe pierce with it.
Yeah. They would be proficient with their own natural weapons. At least that would make sense.
Yes.
And at this level, we'd be doing with at least 2 dice of damage. Let's say it's blunt. What would be the consequence of critting?
The consequence of critting.
Yeah, so I don't think they're more likely to crit with their claws than, say, a sword.
Agree.
So it's not an increased critical hit range.
Right.
So is it like when they hit, they punch through, say, armor? Can they like get through shields? Shields would be kind of weird. Do they just get an extra die of damage if they crit?
I was thinking extra die of damage because.
Or do they lock you down? Do they make it so you can't move?
Oh, that's a good one too.
Or stun you, so you skip an action. Like what cool effect?
I like locked down, and I liked making them skip an action. Skipping an action feels really scary. Like if these are going to be like melee monsters, then charging up to someone, critting, and then just locking them down or stunning them, either or, feels good.
That makes sense. Let's see who's got that effect. So right now, the Inlari have that effect on their arc weapons, and the stun baton gives that to a Nyx squad leader, a Freylar crewman, and who else? Of a Vaskaran marshal, and then a shock staff on the Vaskaran protector. So it's not unheard of, but it's about 10 instances, 3 or so of which are not the Inlari, all the rest of the Inlari. Okay, and then what if we look at speed is reduced? So there's about 10 instances of that. And that is on the Balmori's cryo grenade, on the squee with the power whip, on the shadow whip. That makes sense. On the Krill's mandibles. Okay, so the Krills got that with their mandibles. I think. And then if we do extra die.
Skip feels unique to the Balmori, but it also seems like it occurs less throughout what you currently have finished, or at least written. So it kind of feels more dangerous for that to make them skip. But I don't know if that's, you said it's a level 5 monster. I don't know if that's appropriate for them.
No, this would be a tier. No, there's no levels to the monsters really.
Oh, okay, I may have misheard you then.
But
or maybe I made it up.
I was counting how many instances there are, because you want to have some consistency, and then you don't want to like lean on something super hard. So for example, just by doing that little survey, I learned that I want to highlight wherever he is. Yes, this guy. Not that this is a bad item, but he is actually repeating something, essentially, that a power whip does. It's a little different, but I don't know if it's so different that it's worth having in the same faction. And it may be that we should just not have it there. So I want to revisit that at some point. But again, it's playtesting this a bunch. We are actively playtesting with working stat blocks. And then as we go, we're porting some of that information into here. Then we're using these written up stat blocks in active games and seeing how well they work, and if there is stuff that needs to change. I think the blunt claw that can stun you isn't terrible. It also does mean, though, if this is a natural weapon, that the other guy probably should have it. Possibly like this, because it's probably not plan A if he's got a pistol.
Right.
Which is fine. Let me just delete this row.
He's not manipulating that pistol with a giant natural claw weapon, so I'm now envisioning them with like multiple limbs, which is
our draft does have that. Let me try and find one a sec.
Yeah, okay.
If I just open this and I tell it I want to search for Balmori. JPEG. No, I want to go to where this file is. Let me think. Here. Okay. So then if I go to here, so here's one of the rough drafts. And then here's another of the rough drafts with a note from the artist.
Color test, I don't like it. I've actually, it's funny that they said that. I've kind of been envisioning them as almost like a seafoam to navy blue gradient. Yeah, that one fits at least my personal vision much better than the red, but it could be either.
And in both cases, we were going for a couple sets of limbs, the upper and lower.
Yeah. I like it.
And we've got some other artwork hanging out in here. A good chunk of which will be in the book. Some of it, though, is just concept art, which is fine. But I think you might get a kick out of these.
Freylar.
So the idea is that they actually eat with their hands, and that it goes up through tubes through their arms.
That's cool.
Which is why they don't have mouths, because they actually have mouths on either hand.
Hands. Super gross, but like in the best way. Yeah, I like that.
It also means without like a fair amount of appropriate material or like a full bodysuit, you are not going to pass as a Freylar for very long.
Yeah.
Which is totally, I think, fine. And this dude is a concept art for a species that is going to make it in the book, but as monsters to encounter rather than as a alien species to fight.
Okay.
And the reason is because some of the consequences of how they live. These are lithivores, who are largely made of rock.
Okay.
And they eat specific kinds of rock and sustain themselves off it. Well, that also means that they could eat a spaceship.
Interesting. Oh, silicon, I guess, right?
Because if they can digest metal
sure.
and silicates and carbon of various configurations, say diamonds, then they can probably digest your ship, actually.
Yeah, that's crazy. Oh, that's really cool. Because if you're like on a planet, on a mission, you return to the ship and all of a sudden it's half eaten and you are staring down 3 of these things. That's bad. That's a bad time.
Oh yeah. I think that they'll be a lot of fun. We played around with a Finnish word, I think it was, for mountain, and it came out as Vori.
I like it.
But so I think those will be really fun as monsters. However, this was an example when we were going to have them be a playable, potentially playable species or enemy. Cool. But it looks cool. But you run into some logic issues, in part because they have very different values in terms economically as well as probably morally. Like economically, these dudes may literally crap out diamonds.
That could change things economically.
They desire very different things.
Yeah.
And then of course, what they would view as wrong, or why they would view it as wrong. Like, for example, if you established a mining colony in their space, depending on if you were messing with them personally, I mean, they'd be pretty mad probably. But like, they might just view it as the equivalent of food theft, which is a crime, but is, at least for humans, unless you're in a starvation situation, typically a lesser crime than, for example, bank robbery. Or stealing the king's jewels or whatever. That's usually a worse crime than stealing some bread. On the other hand, if they tend to, strip mine planets, they might put a very high value on what plant matter they do preserve. Because where they're careful, for example, to keep, ceremonial trees or whatever, you cut those down.
It's war.
Yeah, it's war. They could be real mad about that.
Yeah.
And so they're a fun idea, I think, but I think better as a monster than not. I like the claw. I think that's a good call. I got to think more about what we want the Duke guy to be like. I do think I want him to be a physical threat. The energy axe, I think, would be hilarious for him to have as well. Simply because the ability to chain attacks, if you look at that.
All right, make 2 attacks for 2d12 solar damage. If you score a critical hit, roll an extra damage die. Whenever you drop a creature to 0 hit points, you may make another attack. Now, does it have to be dropping a creature to 0 hit points with the axe?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That isn't like a trait up here.
But the additional attack that you make...
With the axe. That's actually written out in the ability.
Oh, okay, I see.
It's truncated here for space.
Right, makes sense.
4 lines is just not a good plan.
Gotcha. So you just...
or 5 lines for a single...
Go to town with the axe. Just start hacking them up.
Yeah.
Assuming you're killing things while you do it.
Now, that said, what could be interesting is, what if I took the claw? I think that might be more interesting. And we put that here. And then we took this. That could get interesting if they had a claw.
Making a maneuver?
But yeah, they make it a maneuver attack. I think that could be pretty cool. What do you think?
I like it. I mean, for the Duke especially, I like it.
I think I like that idea. And then we can, I think, remove last stand from here for now. Insert the row below. Grab that spacer or wherever. There's one. Just grab this guy. And then don't need any of this stuff. Really. There. This is just a reminder to put a sidebar there. I think the sidebar is probably a better idea than the last stand thing in most situations. I like last stand, but I think it'll just make him kind of busy. What do you have an opinion on that?
I don't think so, no. What? Let me see.
So on the left, that guy,
right,
the governor or viceroy, the putting the claw up here, and so that you're picking essentially in normal combat, fighting with his claw or with on my command at the starship scale, or when he's using actions, you're using phase pistol, broadside, or redeploy, those 2 at the starship scale. Where he's really focused on the starship scale, but is not useless in combat.
Yeah. I like that.
Because we could keep the last stand thing where he can use a maneuver to give his ship 20 hit points, pop back in the fight. But that is also something a game master could simply do. If they bother to go, all right, what career is this guy in, and just look at its other ability. If they were like, I want to make a advanced version of this dude, they'd go, okay, up the skills, increase the hit points, and give him a higher level ability. That would be one of the abilities. So that's also a possibility. I'm going to quick undo a couple times just so I can grab the text and see if we truncate it the most, how that looks. There we go. If we truncate this the most. By the way, thanks for doing this and hanging out for a bit. I'm glad we were getting the chance.
No, I love it. You've been just every time I've had you on, you've been great. Our conversations offline have been great. You've been very warm. You've been very kind to I guess build to fuel your ego a bit there. And I really like Horde Wars, and I really think I'm going to like Dropship, and I'm super grateful for the opportunity. I've been having fun doing it. I'm very grateful. So thank you kindly.
Yeah, you bet, man. So the Duke. Now we don't have tons of time remaining, but we have a little bit. At least on my end. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good to go for when you say a little. I assume you mean like 10-ish minutes, 15-ish minutes, something like that.
Correct.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's go to the end. We'll take it out to the end.
Also, hello, Arnie. I see you there.
Is he one of your guys?
Yeah. Arnie and I have. I think we've known each other for 2 years now, maybe.
Cool.
Yeah, I went and played with him on the other side of Michigan 3 times, twice at his invitation, once for a third party that we both knew and were going to go game with.
Awesome.
And then he's come over by me once or twice as well. And so that's been fun. We've also played together online and stuff, but yeah.
That's very cool. Well, welcome. I'm glad to have you. I didn't recognize the name, so I didn't. I'm of course glad to have you.
Yeah. So the Duke. The question here is if we're going to lean on the alien species angle, which I think is fine, or if we're going to lean on a human-esque career angle. Now, this guy is a monster, so it's perfectly fine to lean on the alien species stuff. But then it would be focusing on, for example, if he was more octopus-based, like releasing an ink cloud in the water, blinding his enemies, right? Or would be potentially, perhaps he's got enhancements to his biology that are greater than the other Deep Balmorian. So perhaps he has, associated abilities with that. And I don't know. I'm not sure what would be the most fun there. I think it'd also be kind of cool if this dude was just ridiculously heavily armed in power armor and rolling around with a giant gun. I think that'd be perfectly fine as well.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to talk about like leaning into the alienness, but keeping thematically with the whole shrimp men thing, because I can't get shrimp men out of my head. There are mantis shrimp and pistol shrimp, and like there are things that we could do with the claw that it doesn't necessarily have to be like a blunt crushing weapon, right? It could be a blunt crushing weapon that's also very devastating at close range. It could be a pistol claw where they essentially shoot a bubble out, very short range, but it generates enough friction to have, I think it's like thousands of degrees of heat. And if it doesn't stun you, it'll just outright kill you. So those are kind of interesting things that we could do with that, but I don't know if that's a direction that you want to go. I don't know if it fits really the rest of the game. I don't want to give something to this guy that's so overpowered that it just, it just ruins the rest of everything. But we could do an interesting thing like that. Or also, like you said, just have him rocking around in some power armor, beating the living crap out of everything, just closing distances, menacingly, just ripping through things, tearing the lids off tanks and, as a metaphor.
Possibly literally. We don't know.
Yeah.
If he's strong enough. So the thing that comes to mind is where is it? Here. So we've got like a static discharge, thunder stomp, gripping frost, and blistering heat abilities on the wardens in Horde Wars. And I think in some ways, some version of that could be interesting. I think that might be almost better than a claw.
Okay.
interesting maneuver. Now, these guys have natural protection from blunt, cold, and solar. It is likely that they would have, or they have, not natural, I should say, they have armor that protects them from those things. I think it is likely that they would have protection from whatever the thing is that their leaders can do. Otherwise, the leaders would inadvertently be knocking out their own allies.
Yeah, sure.
And if we're thinking, so something like, I'm going to grab one.
Yes, a shrimp alien.
Yeah.
Daryl.
So we can do something like this. And you go, the name's wrong. Let's say it was blunt for the sake of argument. And we could even make it 2d10. This doesn't have to be top end, but oh, hold on. We could just take this guy here, put this here. And now you'll notice if you compare, again, static discharge is the wrong name. So just pretend it says name here. Notice the difference between the claw and the static discharge.
Okay, so I'm going to read them both consecutively. The claw says, make an attack for 2d12 blunt damage. If you damage a creature with a critical hit, he skips his next action because he is stunned. Versus, make an attack for 2d10 blunt damage and apply it against each adjacent target. Any creature damaged by that attack skips his next action because he is stunned. That's way better. It's less damage, but the effect is so much. It's a battlefield controlling sort of maneuver.
And I think that's very appropriate for the species. What do you think?
I like it. I think I like it far better than just the claw. I think it's better. It's more tactical. There are more uses for it. I like it.
Okay. I think that's cool. So what are we going to call this thing? I'm going to call it Claw Snap, maybe. Because there's a shrimp that does that, if I remember right.
Yeah, pistol shrimp.
Yeah. I think that's...
Yeah, they close their claw really quick and hard, and it just...
Yep.
I like the name. Claw Snap's great.
And this means that the governor viceroy dude can usefully stun or delay you and potentially run away.
Yeah.
It's an option. And then this guy, same deal, but he's probably, killing your allies. The guy who isn't stunned is probably who he's going after with the axe.
Yes. He will do it, but he is not running. Not away.
Yeah. I think that's pretty fun as an ability. And what I'd like to do is mirror this ability, not have the same effect, but have a piercing or a slashing version on a couple of the other monsters. For example, one of the krill, I think would be cool to have this sort of effect on. Particularly the queen or the consort, where it punishes you for getting next to them.
Oh, yeah.
I think that would be cool. And, if it was piercing, having spikes that shoot out would kind of make sense. Slashing would also make sense in terms of if it's an area whirlwind effect.
Mm-hmm.
Or potentially a bladed claw, tail that's sweeping. So I like that. What do we give him? Yeah, that's the other part I'm trying to think about is what would be cool, what would be fun. Because I've played around with a bunch of these. If I jump back, what was my last draft of this? I go here. don't think it was in monsters. I think it was under aliens. And then too far. I'm in the krill. I'm not finding them quickly. I am finding some of them. I must have split this. Anyway, the short version is that I'm not happy with the original design. Is this it? Sort of. Okay, here we go. So basically, we wanted to have like a monarch type guy, a duke in this case,
Right.
who is a boss and a brute. So I think that if we essentially divorce the boss, the command and control aspect, and go, no, that's the governor guy, that's the viceroy, whichever title we go with. I think just making the duke the brute works.
I think it works quite well.
And that being the case, which of these guns do you like for him? Assuming he's going to use a gun. All of them would do an extra dive damage compared to what it says. It's a question of like, so phase rifle.
2D then. So let's do the DMR is make 2 attacks against targets within long range for 2d12 cold damage.
Yeah.
You score a critical hit on an attack roll of 11 or 12, and if you score a critical hit, that attack ignores absorption and displacement. I like that one a lot.
The phase rifle is the same thing, but it doesn't crit on an 11 or a 12, just a 12.
Okay. And then, so the DMR is very dangerous.
Yeah.
In comparison. And then the phase lance, make 2 attacks for 2d12 cold damage and apply them against each target in a straight line out from you up to short range. If you score a critical hit, that attack ignores absorption and displacement. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if we want to make the melee a melee powerhouse, that the phase lance seems to be the way to go.
I think,
but do we also want to give them range?
Yeah, I think either works. Just looking up here, all of the weapons are in use in some form. Phase Lance is currently on the Balmori Breacher, whose job it is to, kick in the door and generally be pretty close to the enemy.
Yeah.
Now, the Duke probably isn't all that close to the enemy unless something's gone wrong.
Right.
So I think maybe giving him a longer range weapon would be appropriate if he finds himself on a battlefield. Also, did you ever see? So sometimes there will be higher ranking soldiers who aren't really supposed to be at the front, who will get how can I phrase this? Who will do some skeet shooting where the enemy is the target. Are they supposed to do that? Not usually. But that's not unknown. So it could be that we could do the DMR.
Yeah, if we're giving him a range, I like the DMR a lot.
Okay. And then I think for me, that's probably about where we'll have to stop for the night. But I think that what I'm going to do is contemplate what protective abilities he should have, whether they're passive traits like some kind of shield, active things he can do, a special stance or that kind of thing, and whether or not he should have like, well, I'll show you an example. Whether or not he should have something like the Inlari Overmind with his, or not the Inlari Overmind, the Inlari Inquisitor with his Mind Probe and Slumber. Should the Balmori Duke have like any kind of mental powers?
Okay. Mind Probe is an adjacent creature of your choice must succeed on a DC 10 willpower check where you successfully extract up to 4 pieces of useful information from his mind. Really like that.
Yeah, and the way you'd like reskin this for a intimidating alien ruler is you'd make it a senses check, maybe willpower, and instead of it being extracted from your mind, it would be, or you blurt out the information.
Okay.
Right, because he's, and it'd probably be a compulsion effect rather than telepathic.
Makes sense. And then Slumber, choose up to 4 creatures within close range. Each target must succeed on a DC 10 willpower check where he falls into a deep sleep for the next hour or until he takes damage. I like the effect. It's very good for battlefield control. I really, really like Mind Probe. I just really like that as it's like a spell effect. I think it would feel really good on the Balmori Duke. Or something like it. Not maybe not that, but something like it.
I think something like it could be cool. The Amari Inquisitors who has that currently, and I think it's really effective for them in part because they kidnap people as a hobby.
Hell of a hobby.
Able to put them to sleep is useful. And then the Overmind has got some other powers. Mind Bend being probably the more relevant one.
An adjacent creature of your choice must succeed on a DC 10 willpower check, where he becomes blindly loyal to you for the next minute to the exclusion of all other loyalties. This does not mean he will act in a suicidal manner. That's pretty great.
And so I think something like that could be kind of cool, either on the Balmori Duke or possibly like the Krill Queen.
Mm-hmm.
With like a pheromone effect, perhaps.
It
doesn't have to be sleep. It doesn't have to be mind control. It could be as basic as like a fear effect. Run away or freeze in place kind of thing. Yeah. But I think playing around with that could be pretty cool. I'm just not sure which one would be the most fun for the Balmori. And Arnie's like, make sure the enemy's not resistant to compulsion. Yes. And a player character could be immune to compulsion. That could happen, especially if there's a priest in the party, type guy, a chaplain, or a whatever title he uses. The career is called the chaplain, because the chaplain at high level could make someone immune to compulsion for up to a minute. And he could potentially have affected multiple party members. So it would be possible for a relatively high-level player character who was a chaplain to go, no, we're gonna not be affected by this. Everyone who failed, I'm gonna fix you, or we're gonna, or we know you always fail. I'll prep you ahead. But the reason for that is the chaplain is, among other things, meant to be able to combat the Sarlaccs usefully, who are these space demons that can possess you. And so by being able to cure you of compulsion and making you temporarily immune, he can drive out these creatures. That's the main purpose. But in this case, it could also help with, other threats. And then, I think that, I think I want something like that. What do you think, though, for the Balmori? It's probably not pheromones. That'd be weird underwater. Do you think it's a like physical intimidation type thing?
I don't
They're
know.
not
I
really.
mean, it might be physical intimidation. I immediately went to like some kind of lore, right? Like some kind of weird lore, like an angler, or maybe even some weird form of like deep water echolocation. Um, Maybe the lore can put out some sort of mind altering wave to draw things in, or make them sleep, or whatever the effect ends up being. But that's what occurred to me initially.
That makes sense.
I don't know if echolocation sonar is probably the better term, but
We do have an echolocation kind of effect, but one of them is like a form of senses for like subterranean creatures. But the other is a character ability that is available at higher level. That is on the ranger, I want to say. Let me see here. Yeah, so if we look here at target acquisition.
choose up to 4 opponents. Oh, sorry. Action once per day per tier. Choose up to 4 opponents within short range, and for the next minute, you know which combat space each target is in, and your attacks against them ignore absorption and displacement. That would work well. That would work very well.
And so that would be, an equivalent.
But with the Duke wanting to get into melee, it might feel like they want to like draw in, like I'm closing, and as I'm closing, you are also closing, so I get to you faster.
So we mean come at me, bro.
Come at me, bro. Yeah. Yes.
I think that could work. That or maybe it doesn't necessarily have to force you to move towards him. If all it did is prevent you from moving away,
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be enough to cause many players to charge him instead.
Yes.
Willingly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
what else are you gonna do?
Yep. Psionic stun could be interesting as well. And I'm gonna give this some more thought. If you would like to do a part 3, I would love to. And at that point, it would be actually comparing these with some of the other higher level monster dudes.
Yeah, I'm very happy to have you back. I'm very happy to have you back.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So the other ones that, like, for comparison, so the Krill are basically done, with the exception of the Vivisector that I'm working on, but and the Consort and the Queen. And the Consort and the Queen, which will be switched to monster later. That's incorrect, the character thing. But these things, I think, should have some similar, like, species-based abilities. And I'm half tempted to switch the entirety of the Krill over to the monster subtype.
Oh, that would be cool. That could be very cool. Like just an all monster type. Yeah, that would be very cool.
Yeah, and so that's one. And then the same is true for the Sarlaccs, for the hierarchy, where one of their core abilities we've got written in another spot, which is the possessing ability. And we've played around with some stats for them, but where we've got one who's an oracle who can basically is really good at like communicating and seeing across interstellar distances, and is thus key to the hierarchy's ability to control a much larger piece of territory than other civilizations, because the Sarlaccs aren't relying on actual communications arrays. Their oracles are able to communicate instantaneously across space for short periods of time. And so while that's not perfect, it is very powerful and lets them control much larger chunks of territory. And then the Prince one, again, both are capable of possession. The Prince one is a little more command oriented. But we have to port that information over. But I think, and then we've got, I don't know how many stat blocks done for these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have 11 of the 13 for that faction. So we're getting there. It's getting very close.
Yeah, that's very close.
Hoping in the next, probably by the end of the month, to have these essentially done, other than the sidebars and any like playtesting issues we bump into. So if we're going to schedule something, it should be soon.
Cool.
Let's glance. So for anyone, and that way for anyone who's interested, they can also kind of hear that. Let me look at the calendar. How is I don't know what your availability is like, but how is like like next week, Thursday or Friday, for example?
I will have to get back to you on that because I'm actually I have something out that I'm waiting for an answer on. So let me see what that answer is, and then I will let you know if Thursday or Friday is good. Sitting here right now sounds pretty good.
Okay.
But let me not. I don't want to I don't want to get myself in trouble with anyone, you or anyone else. So I will.
Me, Mrs. Bacon, others.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I will get back to you shortly, though, for sure.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yes, indeed, Daryl. Thank you very much to DM Blackwall.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. Like I said before, I love having you on. I love that. I'd gush if you let me, but I feel like I've already done enough of that this stream. So thank you so much for coming on and just showing the process and it's a very interesting thing. And I'm very happy to have you here, and I'm very happy to do a part 3 to get the Balmoral locked up. Locked up.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful.
Well, thanks for having me again, and thanks for those in chat for participating, saying hi, giving your thoughts. I really want to have this game be a lot of fun and be something people can play for many years without having to buy more products from us. We will probably be offering supporting products, like we're working on some for Horde Wars, both third-party content, and then also we're working on a module as well. But that is something we'd be really focusing on once we're done with Dropship, and Dropship's like in production. And then we've got another game we're working on as well, which is more which is a lead-in to superheroes, but is not itself that genre.
Cool.
Essentially, a near future city that is wildly corrupt and in need of heroes, but where you're basically playing law enforcement or criminals, and that would serve as the baseline setting and standalone game, as the baseline setting for the superhero content, and that's. But that'll be a while yet. We're really excited about getting Dropship out, and then working on supporting material for those other things. But that game is like 3/4 written roughly for the core game, and it sounds like someone's at my door, so I should go.
Oh, hey, go ahead. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, DM Blackwall. Thank you, everyone in chat. I appreciate it. I'm not going to keep you here any longer if you have someone at your door. So thank you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everyone.